Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. Happy spring. Today's the first day of spring, but with it comes a great snowstorm here in blustery Ohio. So I just want to welcome you all back to Morning Light. Unfortunately, we still are at the James. As I told you yesterday, we were hopeful we would get out maybe today. We're looking, things are looking positive. So just to update you on Scott, there were no new masses in the testing, but we do have to get a handle on some bleeding and things for him. So we're hopeful that God will be faithful and continue to bring healing, and we're just looking forward to what God has for us in the future. So yesterday I had to, I'm always enamored with the helicopters and the heliports here at the hospital, and just down from Scott's room, the helipad is there. So when they fly in and out all day, we get to see them. But I took an adventure and went down to watch them land. And as I was watching them land, I just was kind of staring and watching and waiting to see what would happen, as probably most of you would be. And I can remember God saying to me at one point, as I was just staring at the helicopter and feeling kind of sorry for myself, and I was praying for the person that was in there. Every time I see one, I always send up a prayer, because we've unfortunately had that with our youngest daughter, a trip in a helicopter, so care flight. So I know it's a bad day for whomever's in there. So as I was looking around down, and God just reminded me of the verse in Psalm 121:3, where it says, "Look up, I look up, and where does my help come from?" And he said, as long as you're sitting here focused on the problem, you're never going to see what I'm doing. And it reminds me of the story in Genesis with Abraham and God in Genesis 15:5, where he says, God took Abraham outside of his tent and said to look up at the sky and count the stars, and if you're able to count them, you shall see that many seed. Now that story comes from when God had promised Abraham that he'd be the father of many nations, with he not having any son. And at 75 years old at first, he had his child later, Isaac, at 100, but God had promised him a child. He and Sarah were past childbearing years, so he's telling Abraham, come out here. You remember when your mom or dad would say, come out here, I want to talk to you. God, I believe, is saying that, and I think he said that to me yesterday, and I think many of you, he may be saying that too, is come out here. I want you to look up, stop looking down and around. And it's kind of like the helicopter yesterday was a really great picture of stop looking at your circumstance. Even though it's bad, it may be really bad. I want you to come out here and look at me. And Psalm 121 talks about that very thing. In verse 1-3, and I'll read it, it says, I look up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? This is a very familiar verse to a lot of us. Verse 2, my help comes from the Lord, the psalmist writes. He who made heaven and earth, he will not allow your foot to slip. He who keeps you will not slumber. So that means God is saying, I am not asleep. I am not asleep in your matter. I am not off sloughing somewhere. I see everything you're going through. And I want you to see me, meaning God. He's saying, look for me. Watch for me in this. Take your eyes off of that helicopter. Take your eyes off of that sickness. Take your eyes off of that marriage. Take your eyes off of that wayward child. Take your eyes off of your finances and come out here and look at me and look for me and look up, because this is where your help's coming from. No, your help is not going to come from a powerful mountain, is what he's saying here. Maybe your help comes from the bottle, pills, alcohol. Maybe your help comes from a friend. Maybe your help comes from retail therapy. I needed a little bit of that this weekend. God says, you know what? Don't look anyplace else but up. Look toward me and just see what I have for you. And as it goes on to say in Psalm 121, it says, God's your guardian right at your side to protect you, shielding you from a sunstroke. And I thought about this. How many of you remember, like in the summertime, it's super hot and you've come close to a heat stroke? I know one time when in our landscaping company, I felt like I was really close to one. And it was a picture that God gave me about, when the heat is on, the pressure of life. And when we're in these trials and challenges, it is so tempting to just want to lay down and die. And I get it. But God is saying, you know what, I'm even going to protect you from the heat of the moment. Here in Psalm 121, he says, I'm going to shield you from the sunstroke and the moonstroke. And it says, verse 7 through 8, it said, God guards you from every evil. He guards your very life. He guards you when you leave and when you return. He guards you now. He guards you always. So what is it that you're looking at today? I wanted to pose that question to some of you. What big circumstance has you constantly staring at it and taking your eyes off of God? What are you looking for? Are you looking for an answer in the wrong place? Are you looking for a solution? Are you looking to yourself to fix it? I am known as one to have to be a fixer. If it's not right, I'm going to make it right. And so I know probably a lot of you are like that, that if it's not in a good thing, you're going to make it be a good thing. So what is it, and where are you looking for in your day-to-day struggles? Do you need to come outside your tent like he asked Abraham? Come out of your house, come out of your car, come out of your workplace. Maybe you just need to really get outside. If it's during the snowstorm today, maybe you need to look up and see where that beautiful snow comes from. Don't wait till the moment's perfect to go looking for God, because you won't find it there. Get out and look for him, because he has something for you. God's always got you in the palm of his hand, always. Don't ever discount that. And that verse, these verses here tell you he sees you and you're coming and you're going. He's going to guard you from evil, from bad. He's never going to leave you. He doesn't sleep like we do. He doesn't need rest. I think I said last week one time, he's been waiting for you all evening just to talk to you this morning. And I hope you guys are getting in the Word. I'm hearing some great stories about people getting apps and buying Bibles and really getting in to listen to the Word. I was just amazed yesterday at the comments and private messages that came to me that God met you right in the midst of your storm, and he used our storm to really wake you up and say, wait a minute, look at me. I am out here for you. Stop what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. And there's a big purpose for all of this. So I just want to encourage you today to come out. Where is it you're coming from? Think about the circumstance that's weighing you down. Do you feel like you're coming under that heat stroke of the pressure from the heat? Remember this, that God also is purifying you. There's a process, and we'll talk about that sometime, about the refiner's fire. And I'll just touch briefly here today. A silversmith, when he begins to purify silver or gold, that is placed in a tremendous heat. And the only way that he knows that his pot of silver or gold is pure is to be able to see his reflection in there of himself. So he's looking down in that pot. Just imagine a big pot of silver. And he has to wait till he sees his perfect reflection back at him. That's what he's waiting to see in you. And sometimes that process happens for us. The heat is turned up. And instead of getting angry, think of it as a meaningful purpose in your life, and that God is saying, you know what, I'm going to make something beautiful out of you. Think of the precious metals of silver and gold. He is purifying your heart. He's purifying your mind. He may be purifying your motives. Some of us have some terrible motives coming from our heart. And as we talked about last week, we have to guard our heart and our mouth and our mind. And God is doing that process. So don't hate the process. I know sometimes, especially at the end of this in Psalm 121, where it says, God will guard you from every evil. And then something bad happens in our life, and we're like, well, where were you, God? I thought you were going to guard us from that. Well, we have to remember we live in a fallen world full of sin. And so God does not bring evil on us. He has no part of that. That's all from the enemy. But he does protect us. And I think when we get to heaven one day, I think there's going to be a lot of aha moments. I think we're going to be able to talk to God, and he's going to show us times where he protected us. I know I've seen things where God's protected me, and it was hindsight. I didn't know at the time, but I can see where something much worse could have happened. But we also are a victim to the fallen world of sin. And when Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, unfortunately, they set the pace for all of us to live in disease and harm and evil. what God meant for good, or what Satan meant for harm, God means for good. And so we have to remember that he is a good God. He is protecting us. And the next time you're looking for help, I would really encourage you to look to him. Step out, if that be physically, step out of your mind. Sometimes you got to take long enough time to get out of your own head, your own thought process, and just shut it all down and say, God, I'm coming out and I'm listening to you. I'm going to look up to the heavens and look for your answer. We have to get in the Word. We have to look for him. So I want to encourage you to look up today. Don't look at your surroundings. Don't look at your circumstance. God's saying here in Psalm 121 and in Genesis 15 through the story of Abraham, come out, look at me, look for me and see me. So I would love for you guys to text me, email me, Facebook me, private message me. Where did you see God today? It's kind of a homework assignment from me today to you, to hold you accountable. One, I want you to be in the Word before you leave sometime today, or get up your Bible app, or listen to the Word of God on the way to work or on your lunch break. Listen and look for him, and just offer this prayer: God, will you show me yourself? I know for myself, I've been asking God to show me all his glory. Scary sometimes when he does that. I won't lie, but it's really cool. So he's a big God. So when you ask for something, he's going to give you a big answer. I want to encourage you all today. Please be careful in the next 24 hours. It is going to be a snowy, wintry mess out there. Be careful on the roads. Drive safely. We are really, really hopeful we get to come home today. Haven't talked to any doctors yet this morning, but we're trending that way, so I hope so. We had a huge disappointment thinking we were heading home yesterday afternoon and beginning to pack up, and they came in and said, we're sorry, we can't. So thanks, everybody. Hey, Kristen, Stephanie, hey, Ryan and Karen, hey, Scotty, back there in your room. Thank you guys for all tuning in and just looking to the Lord through this. I love you guys. Have a great day. Remember that you might be the only Jesus that someone will ever see today, so be his hands and feet. Be safe out there, and happy spring. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.